Desmond fakes the three. Dyson Daniels on his wing defender. Deflection by Daniels. Banchero picks it up. Hoist a tough three and missed everything. Jalen Suggs diving. And Gay picks up the rebound and calls timeout.
The Orlando Magic have started this season just 2-4 and currently rank 20th in both offensive and defensive rating, making them one of the most disappointing teams in the league so far. There are a lot of things to blame this start on, from their weak center rotation to Desmond Bane's extremely poor start. However, their biggest issue so far, at least according to most, has been their alleged superstar himself, Paolo Banchero. Although he has shown a lot of promise in his first 3 seasons, he has always had some rough edges in his game. Rough edges that could be excused in developmental years with low expectations. But with the Magic giving him a max extension and trading so much for Desmond Bane, the expectations are a lot higher, and thus far, he has failed to live up to them. So much so that people are going as far as comparing him to Josh Smith. Josh was a good player, but that's pretty rough for the #1 pick. Some have even argued that he has barely improved his game in the 3 years that he's played. That said, I do feel like people are ringing the alarm bells a bit prematurely here. Don't get me wrong, this is a disappointing start for Paolo, but there are a lot of bright spots hidden beneath a lot of ugly basketball. So let's talk about Paolo Banchero in today's edition of Film Room Friday. As someone who has been trying to get in the gym more, supplementing exercise with protein is key to hitting my goals. But so many supplements out there are filled with artificial junk and fillers that I just don't want to put in my body. That's why I was excited to team up with Transparent Labs on this video, because their grass-fed whey protein isolate has made it easy for me to hit my protein goals in a clean and healthy way. It contains no artificial sweeteners, dyes, or fillers. In fact, every bottle only has a handful of natural ingredients, and they're all clear and easy to read. Each serving delivers 28 grams of protein sourced exclusively from grass-fed cows. Using pure isolate instead of cheap concentrates or blends also makes it easier for you to actually digest and absorb the protein. My favorite part of it, though, is it just tastes good, which is kind of hard to find when it comes to protein products. Personally, I get sick of having the same thing day after day, so the fact that this protein comes in 14 delicious natural flavors is amazing. I can easily switch it up when I feel like having something different, and that makes it so much easier and more enjoyable to hit my protein goals. If you would like to try Transparent Labs grass-fed protein for yourself, Transparent Labs is giving away a free protein starter kit with every grass-fed protein subscription. This kit includes a shaker bottle and a variety pack of 5 single-serving pouches, and by clicking the link in the description box or scanning the QR code on screen, you can also get 10% off of your order, which will automatically apply at checkout. Click the link or scan my QR code here to get the offer while supplies last. Thanks again to Transparent Labs for sponsoring today's video. Let's get back to it. First things first, I want to start with some of the positives with Paolo this year. For starters, I've liked what I've seen from him as a playmaker. He's always been a pretty capable passer, but it seems like there was more potential there that was yet untapped. This season, through 6 games, he's averaging 4 assists, which I realize is not crazy. It's actually slightly below his career average, but he has a career low in turnovers, especially passing turnovers, as a lot of his turnovers are actually offensive fouls. He had 9 assists versus Charlotte in Orlando's most recent game at the time of recording, and in general, I liked his approach in that game a lot, which we will be highlighting a little later on. He also is getting to the line more, averaging a career-high 10.3 free throw attempts a game. It'd be nice if he shot a little better than 71% from the line, but even still, free throws are always good offense. He's also taking a higher volume of his shots right at the basket. His career average percentage of his shots from 0 to 3 feet is 22.9%. This year, he's at 27.3%. Here against Jalen Johnson, couple of nice dribble moves, gives him the bump and floats it over Onyeka Okongwu. Good finish there. Here, he just powers through VJ Edgecombe for the slam. Not enough help defense. And he has a really nice spin move here on Nikola Jovic. And those, of course, are just his drives that are resulting in a shot without a foul. His extra free throw volume is evidence that he is getting there even more than that. It's also worth noting Paolo's ability as a play finisher. I really love whenever he gets assisted baskets around the rim. Like here, once again using his size advantage against VJ, great entry pass from Franz, and he just goes straight up over him. Pick and roll here with Suggs for the easiest floater imaginable. And on the semi-transition here, he gets left open and Desmond Bane finds him for the dunk. And what happens here on this play versus the Chicago Bulls is actually something that I notice with Franz a lot. He is really good at driving off of the catch. He gets ahead of steam and it just makes him a lot more effective going downhill. There's a little bit of a lane down the middle here for him, and no one can stop him. Giddey ends up causing the and one. Though these plays are unfortunately pretty far and few between. Most of his assisted layups are either from the fast break or just kind of BS assists where he really just drived and did it quickly, so it technically counted as an assist. He's also taking more of his shots from floater range and hitting a career high percentage so far. He also has more presence as a rim protector this year. That could very well just be some early season big numbers though, but he has damn near doubled his blocks per game. But unfortunately, this is where the positives stop. Easily the biggest criticism of Paolo's game has been his shot selection. This guy loves his mid-range jumpers, which I would be fine with if he was any good at them. See, Paolo has what I have long ago coined Kobe wannabe-itis. This is the same problem that plagued Andrew Wiggins early in his career, insisting on taking a high volume of difficult mid-range pull-ups and post fadeaways despite being bad at them. For a more recent example, Jason Tatum also had this issue. In his first 4 seasons, Tatum took 25% of his shots from 10 feet to just inside the three-point line, and he shot 39% on them, which isn't super awful, but it is a good bit below league average from those ranges. And for a quarter of his shots to just be outright inefficient bad shots, it's not exactly ideal. As a result, Tatum started to turn more of those 2s into 3s, and he drastically improved his efficiency as a result. In his last 4 seasons, he reduced his mid-range volume to 16% of his shots. The percentage on him actually stayed about the same, but he took more 3s. He also drove more, getting more shots close to the basket and thus more free throw attempts. And his true shooting percentage went from 56% to 59%, while going from a little bit below average to just above it, all while his overall shot volume was going up. So changing his shot diet, even though he was shooting even more, improved his efficiency. Don't get me wrong. I love mid-range jumpers. It's literally my favorite shot in the game, and I hate that when I discuss this stuff, so many people just go, oh, this guy's just like analytics ball. Push up your glasses, pick up your calculator, nerd. That's just not really true. This is just how I feel about players taking a high volume of any shot that they're really bad at. Like Giannis in the last few years has almost entirely stopped shooting 3s. In 2020, he took nearly 5 3-pointers per game despite him shooting just 30% on them. Last season, he shot just 0.9 3s per game. If you're bad at one type of shot, then that shot is a bad shot to be taking no matter where it's from. Now, there is a line there where you do need to keep taking shots that you're bad at in order to improve on them. Subsequently, Paolo's mid-range volume has mostly been deemed acceptable up until this point. The issue is he's taken plenty of mid-range shots to this point, and there is more than enough evidence to suggest that this is just a bad shot for him. Paolo, in his first 3 seasons, shot 25% of his shots from mid-range, and he only hit 39% of them. Ironically enough, the exact same numbers of Jason Tatum earlier into his career. At this point, there is little evidence to suggest that this is the kind of shot that should be so prevalent in his game. But through 6 games so far, not much has changed, except for one thing. He isn't making them like at all this season. As of now, he's just throwing up brick after brick. One of the big frustrations with Paolo's mid-range shooting is he's not good at generating separation, and he also takes them really early into the shot clock. This one, just there's a hand right there, even if he makes it. Same here for Patrick Williams, just right at the shot. His slow dribble moves do not generate space. That one's a little bit better, but not that much better. I do feel better about his mid-range attempts whenever they are coming off of some kind of set to get him open. But when he's doing it himself, it just results in bad shots. This play here versus Miami, he gets the screen from Desmond Bane. That's a really clean look. Even though it doesn't go in, I don't hate that attempt. A big frustration overall is when he's taking these shots, often with double digits still left on the shot clock. When the clock is expiring, I don't really have a problem with him putting up a grenade, but in general, he just seems to have a lack of shot clock awareness, like that awful oh no Valentine-esque shot versus Atlanta in the clutch that we opened the video with. Like, what are you doing, man? I don't mind it when it's the end of the shot clock, but Paolo takes these shots like he wants them, like he thinks they're good shots. Another major frustration is when he takes these shots over much smaller players that he should be able to power through. Here he has Norman Powell on him. This is also very late in the game in the clutch. He falls over and he still ends up taking that shot. Here he has Sion James over him, and I recognize that Ryan Kalkbrenner is rotating over, so the odds of him getting a great look at the rim are not there. However, Gogo would have been left wide open, and it could have been a great way to generate an open shot right at the basket. Instead, he gives the defense a break, doesn't make them make tough decisions, and he just takes this baseline jumper. He also seems a little bit too unwilling to me in general to drive into a big man who can theoretically stop him at the rim, because ultimately, if you're going to be a high volume finisher, you need to be willing to take that contact and hopefully get free throws out of it. Just settling here. And then literally, he's got fucking Luke Kennard on him. Look at how little space this man manages to generate. Like, look at that, dude. That's just not great. And he thinks he got fouled there, and like maybe he did, but that's just not an acceptable shot in this context. You should be pushing through him and trying to get to the rim, or at least trying to get to the line. Here he has Quentin Grimes on him, 15 seconds on the clock. At least he generated some space there. But like, I try not to be a boomer about basketball, but like seriously, just get your big ass on the block. Get inside the paint. Unfortunately, his jump shot problems also extend to the three-point line. For his career, he has shot 31.8% on 4.6 three-point attempts per game. That is, well, it's not good, to say the least. And he has been especially bad on them this year. So far, he is 5 for 23. Now, I am not as pro eliminating these shots as the mid-range ones, because even though his percentage is worse by virtue of a three-pointer being, 3 points instead of 2, it's ultimately a much more efficient shot. 31.8% on a three-point jumper is worth 0.95 points per possession. 39% on mid-range jumpers is worth just 0.78 points per possession. I don't think the same logic can be applied to Paolo as Giannis. I think he's going to need a three-point shot a lot more than Giannis does, while Paolo might be a good finisher at high volume. He doesn't have quite the power to enforce his will the same way that Giannis does, but he could make his life a lot easier by taking less off of the dribble and contested three-pointers. Like this kind of shot from Paolo with a good hand over that, it's just not gonna go in. It just simply won't. When he is working off ball and taking catch and shoot three-pointers, he seems a lot more comfortable. Here, Davion Mitchell falls over. Andrew Wiggins has to rotate, even though it's kind of deep. That was a really nice catch and shoot for him. Short roll here by Wendell. He finds Paolo wide open. Another really clean look. Something that I do feel the need to mention, because it was a big frustration whenever I was going through this film, Paolo takes too long winding up his catch and shoots. In fact, I would say in general, his shooting is a little bit too slow. It's a big reason why his mid-range game doesn't really work. But like, even really clean looks that should have been open, he's just waiting way too long and wasting these opportunities. Desmond Bane drives inside, defense collapse. Look at when he catches this ball. That should be money in the bank. That should be a wide open three that you can trust him to, at the very least, have a good chance at making. However, he has this slow-ass windup. His dip just takes so long that a hand is there, and that's enough to bother him. This one against Atlanta is especially egregious. Look at that. Just shoot the damn ball, man. But no, he wants to sit there, lick his finger, check the wind, and that's a really good late contest because he waited so damn long. Seriously, look at this. Look where, I think that is Mo Gay. I might be wrong about that. But look at where he is when Paolo has this ball. There is no world where any competent shooter in the NBA should be taking this long to get the shot up. It's almost like he was pretty confident Gay was not going to rotate over, and then he just did and took him by surprise. But like, you can't be doing that. You can't be acting like you're not going to get a contest, no matter how open you are. So as for Paolo's shot diet, here are my suggestions. Less mid-range shots, especially early into the shot clock, especially off of the dribble, and especially when he has a small guard on him. Less pull-up threes and having a quicker trigger on the catch and shoots. In general, I would like to see less off-the-dribble offense from Paolo, period, because he seems quite capable as an off-ball threat. He just rarely uses it. That said, I think his last game versus Charlotte was really encouraging. First of all, he had a season-high 9 assists with only 1 turnover. Driving inside, LaMelo rotates way too prematurely and leaves Anthony Black wide open. Simple but good read. He throws a really nice entry pass into Franz there, who has the mismatch in the paint. And then here, draws the defense again, Franz open on the elbow, and he hits it. These are fairly basic reads, but he's actually using some semblance of scoring gravity to his favor to create these opportunities, which I would like to see more often. Now, as for his scoring, there were more assisted baskets. A good bit were on the fast break, so I'm not going to highlight that, but I liked his looks in the half court. Even a few of the mid-range shots that he took, I was a lot happier with. Pick and roll with Desmond Bane, rolls to the basket, does not stop in the mid-range, puts his dribble down, takes the shoulder from Bridges, and goes straight up with it. Here, like I said about him getting ahead of steam, he catches that ball, goes straight through, does not hit the shot, but he gets free throws out of it. And here he takes Tijan Salon, uses his strength for the hook shot. That's how you play big. This three-pointer here right off of the dribble handoff, I do think he waited a little bit too long, but his defender was not there because of the screen, so I'll take it. And even this mid-range shot, there's 6 seconds left on the shot clock. By all means, do it at that point. Same thing here, 6 seconds on the shot clock, you're allowed to throw it up at that point. I can't be mad at you. And on top of that, he hits them. I even liked some of the shots that he missed, especially this corner three-pointer, because he notably just goes up a lot faster before Concanippel can give him a real contest. He missed it, but I way prefer that. Another thing that I liked about this game is he only took 12 shots to get to 20 points, and more importantly, he took less shots than Franz. I think the average casual NBA fan who does not know much about the Orlando Magic thinks that Paolo is the best player on this team, but no, I think currently it is pretty clearly Franz Wagner. But the Magic don't seem to know this, or at least their shot distribution would not imply as much. I don't know how much this is Paolo just taking over versus literally the system in play. Paolo takes a lot of isolation shots, so could be that he's just breaking up these plays, but one way or the other, I just think he needs to be shooting less than Franz. So far this year, Paolo is taking 1.3 more shots per game than Franz, despite him shooting 6% better from 2 and 19% better from 3. Paolo is also taking 4 more free throw attempts per game, and despite these extra opportunities, he is averaging a whopping 0.3 more points per game than Franz. Before this Charlotte game, Paolo was taking 2.4 more shots per game than Franz. Last season, when Paolo and Franz played together, Paolo took 20.2 shots while Franz took 18, as well as 4 less free throw attempts per game. Now, don't get me wrong, Franz has his own issues, especially with his three-point shot. But he is a far more efficient inside the arc scorer, not to mention probably a substantially better playmaker at that. And so far this year, he is hitting his threes, which is all the more reason for him to be clearly the number one option. In this Charlotte game, Franz took 16 shots and Paolo took 12, and they had one of their best offensive games so far. Overall, I'm not too concerned about Paolo. I think his heightened rim frequency, free throw volume, and better playmaking so far this year are overall really positive signs that are buried under just how god-awful his jump shot has been. He needs to make some changes, no doubt, but I think when his jumper returns to just being mediocre instead of god-awful, a lot of this noise will quiet down. Their biggest issues to me, honestly, is the defense. Last year, they were number 2 in defensive rating. Right now, they're 20th. I don't think that'll maintain. I'm quite confident that this is a top 5 defense in the league. So when that evens out and Paolo's jumper evens out, I think the Magic will be fine. Also, Desmond Bane needs to figure his shit out because he has been awful ever since that really good first game. I will say this, though. I do think a lot of people did overrate this guy just because he was the number 1 pick. And I get that, but he's not LeBron, and I don't know why people just see a 6'9", 6'10" guy who can dribble and they just immediately jump to LeBron. I actually remember last year seeing a clip with a caption, "Who does this remind you of?" And it was a tomahawk dunk from Paolo, and it reminded me of 2024 LeBron. Do you realize that Paolo is just not nearly the vertical athlete that LeBron was? He's not as fast as LeBron was. He doesn't have the natural playmaking instincts. I really just don't know where those comparisons were coming from. I do think that Paolo has superstar potential, but I also think that far too many people treated him reaching that potential like it was a foregone conclusion. As of now, I see little reason to believe that his upside is all that much better than that of Franz Wagner. Still, a forward this big who gets to the rim and the line this much, who is a good ball handler and playmaker, that is the recipe for a really strong offensive piece. He just has some shit to figure out, and I think people were just being rather alarmist early into this year. Not that that's uncommon early into the season, but I think he will be fine. I just think the Magic need to make some adjustments in terms of their priorities. And yeah, the mid-range jumpers, he needs to chill out on those. All that said, I think Paolo will be fine. I think his game versus Charlotte was very encouraging and seemed like he was taking some of the criticism and making some adjustments properly. Hopefully that maintains, but we shall see. Thank you so much for watching this video, and goodbye.